All right, so get this. We're going to the Himalayas for this deep dive. You know this story about Julian Mantle, right?
Mm.
The lawyer?
Yeah.
He's got it all, successful, the whole 9 yards, but he feels empty. Goes to India to find, I don't know, something more, I guess, and ends up with these wise savanna sages. Sounds pretty wild.
You know what gets me? It's like everyone knows a Julian, you know?
Yeah.
People climb the ladder and get to the top and are like, wait, is this it? Super relatable.
Yeah, it really makes you think, what's the point of all the success if you're miserable? So these savanna sages, fill me in.
Well, they're not exactly what you picture when you think wise sage. Like, they're full of life, always helping others. They're basically walking the walk, you know? Inner peace, outer peace.
So no long beards and hiding in caves, huh?
Yeah.
But they teach Julian through this mystical fable, right? Give me the rundown.
Imagine it like this. The fable's a map, and each of the 7 virtues they teach is a key to a better life. Not rules exactly, more like principles that all work together.
Okay, so like pieces of a puzzle. What's the first one on this map?
First up, mastering your mind. You know, everyone struggles with that. The fable uses this metaphor of a garden. Your mind's fertile ground, but it needs work, you know?
Yeah, we've all got that mental garden going on. But apparently it gets pretty crowded. Like Julian learns that we have something like 60,000 thoughts every single day, and 99% are the same ones from the day before.
Crazy, right? Makes you realize we're basically on autopilot most of the time. But the sages teach us that if we want to break free, we got to start by being aware of our thoughts. Then we can choose better ones, right?
So instead of letting our thoughts run wild, we got to be the gardeners. What kind of tools do they give Julian for that?
Okay, so there's this meditation technique called the Heart of the Rose. It's all about finding that stillness and clarity, like zeroing in on the beauty of a single rose instead of getting lost in the weeds.
So quiet the noise, focus on what matters.
Exactly. And then there's this thing called opposite thinking, which is basically taking every negative thought and flipping it on its head.
So instead of, I suck at this, it's, hey, I can learn and grow from this. Sounds deceptively simple.
It is, but it's powerful too. It's about retraining your brain, you know? The more you do it, the easier it becomes, and eventually it changes how you see the world.
Okay, that makes total sense. And that leads us to the next virtue, right?
Yeah.
The lighthouse, all about having a purpose in life.
Right on. See, the sages are big on aligning your actions with your purpose, using it as a guiding light when life gets stormy.
Which is perfect timing for Julian, midlife crisis and all that.
Yeah.
He's got the success, but not the happiness, right? How did the sages help him find his purpose?
They don't tell him what it is because it's different for everyone, right? They're more about pushing him to figure it out. What lights you up? What are you good at? What kind of mark do you want to leave on the world?
Okay, so no prepackaged answers. It's a journey.
Yep, a journey that never really ends. But when you have that purpose, even a vague one, it keeps you grounded, especially when things get tough.
So we've got mastering the mind, finding your purpose. What's next?
Okay, so this one's a curveball. It's all about Kaizen, you know, that Japanese idea of constant self-improvement. And get this, it's represented by a sumo wrestler.
A sumo wrestler. Now, that's an image I wasn't expecting. Explain this to me.
Think about it. The sumo wrestler, he's dedicated, right? Always training, always striving to be better. That's Kaizen. Small steps, day after day, adding up to big change.
So like those little training sessions build up to strength and skill.
Exactly. No need for a massive overhaul all at once. Just focus on small, consistent effort, takes the pressure off.
This is getting really practical. And these virtues, they build on each other, right? So how does Kaizen tie into the next one?
Well, that sumo wrestler, he needs discipline to train, right? And discipline is the 4th virtue. Here's where it gets kind of cool. The fable uses a pink wire to symbolize discipline.
A pink wire. Okay, I'm gonna need you to break this down for me.
Think of it like this. The pink wire's your willpower muscle, right? Gets stronger the more you use it. It's about choosing the right actions, even when it's hard.
Like the wrestler pushing through those tough workouts, we got to build our willpower too, one step at a time. What do they tell Julian about developing that discipline?
Couple of things. First, mantras, repeating positive affirmations, you know? It's like reprogramming your subconscious mind.
So like giving yourself a pep talk. I like it. What else?
They're also big on doing stuff you don't like, not to punish yourself, but to build that self-control.
So choosing the salad when you really want the burger.
Exactly. And then there's the vow of silence. No talking for a whole period of time. Sounds intense, but it really makes you tune into your inner voice.
Wow, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 virtues down. What's next?
This one's all about mastering time, which I think we all struggle with.
Yeah, tell me about it. Always running out of hours in the day. How's it handled in the fable?
They use this image of a broken stopwatch, to show how precious time is. The sages are all about using it wisely, not just cramming more in, but making sure you're doing what really matters.
Quality over quantity. How did they suggest we do that?
Couple of things. First, schedule me time, like
Yeah.
actually put it on your calendar
Yeah.
for self-care, learning, connecting with people, right alongside your work stuff. Make it a priority.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's so easy to let that slide when you're busy. What else?
They're big on the 80-20 rule. Focus on the 20% of your efforts that get you 80% of the results. Work smarter, not harder.
Right, being strategic with your energy. Makes sense. Anything else?
Last thing, they're all about simplifying your life. Get rid of clutter, ditch commitments that don't serve you, create space for what matters.
So no more chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got mastering the mind, finding purpose, kaizen, discipline, and managing time with intention. We're almost there. What are the last two pieces of the puzzle?
All right, so the sixth virtue is all about giving, represented by, wait for it, yellow roses.
Yellow roses. Interesting. Usually that's friendship, joy. How's that giving?
The sages teach that real wealth isn't money, it's the good you do for others. Those roses, they're like the joy and abundance that come from helping people.
So not just donating money, but a whole attitude of generosity.
You got it. It's about making a difference, big or small, using what you're good at to leave the world a little better than you found it.
I like that. Reminds me of that saying, the more you give, the more you get. Maybe not in a material way, but in, happiness, purpose, all that.
You nailed it. The more you focus outward, the more good stuff comes back to you. It's a paradox. Okay, ready for the final virtue?
Hit me with it. What's the last key?
This one's all about being present, living in the now. In the fable, they use this image of a path sparkling with diamonds.
Diamonds. Fancy. So how do diamonds equal being present?
Each moment's precious, like a diamond, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they teach. And when you appreciate the now, that's where real happiness is.
No dwelling on the past, no stressing about the future, just being here now.
Exactly. And they've got some techniques for that, like gratitude, focusing on what you're thankful for, trains your brain to look for the good stuff.
Okay, so gratitude, we talked about that a little bit before, but now it's like the final step. Like
Right.
it brings all the other stuff together, being present, being grateful. That's where you find peace.
You got it. It's about showing up for your life every moment, appreciating it all. But there's one more technique, and it's a doozy.
Okay, lay it on me.
The deathbed mentality.
Wait, haven't we talked about that already?
We touched on it, but the sages go deeper with Julian. They're like, imagine you're on your deathbed looking back on your life.
Okay, I'm starting to get it now. It's not just a thought experiment, it's a whole exercise.
Yeah, they ask him to think, what would I regret not doing? What did I not appreciate enough? What relationships would I wish I'd put more into?
Whoa, heavy stuff. But I get it. Thinking about your own mortality makes you want to live a life with no regrets.
Exactly. Makes you get your priorities straight. So Julian goes from lost and unhappy to embracing these virtues and completely changing his life. But where does he go from there?
Yeah, what happens after he learns all this?
Well, he doesn't keep it to himself. He starts sharing it with others, helps them on their own journeys.
I love that. Paying it forward.
Exactly. It's not just about him anymore. He's creating a ripple effect. And that's a lesson for all of us. The more we learn and grow, the more we can help others do the same.
So we've explored these 7 virtues, seen them in action. Julian's story is pretty inspiring. What stands out to you the most?
It's a reminder that personal growth isn't a finish line, it's a journey. Always learning, always growing. Julian doesn't become perfect, he just keeps getting better day by day.
I like that. Takes the pressure off, right? No need to be perfect.
Exactly. Just gotta be curious, be kind to yourself, and be open to learning new things.
This has been eye-opening, for sure. I'm ready to try some of these techniques out myself. Our listeners are probably feeling the same way.
I hope so. We'll be back in a bit to talk about how you can use these virtues to create your own path, to a life that feels meaningful and, well, awesome.
Sounds good. All right, so last time we left off, Julian was just getting his head around these 7 virtues. What happens when he starts putting them into practice?
Well, the first thing he notices is how he looks, like physically. As he starts mastering his mind, finding purpose, being more disciplined, he actually looks younger, more vibrant.
It's like they say, look good, feel good, right? But it's deeper than that, I think.
Totally. The Savannah sages are big on the idea that what's inside shows up on the outside. Julian's finding inner peace, and it's like his body's catching up.
That's pretty wild. So it's not just thinking positive, it's really living it, embodying it.
Exactly. It's got to be a way of life, not just some self-improvement project you do on the side. So back to Julian's journey, there's this new character in the fable, a wise old gardener.
Okay, what's his deal?
He becomes a mentor to Julian, teaches him about taking care of his inner world the same way you'd tend a garden.
Oh, I get it. Weeding out the bad thoughts, planting the good ones.
Right. The gardener's like, your mind needs constant tending, just like a garden. Gotta be mindful of what you let grow in there, gotta nourish yourself with the right stuff.
So you're the curator of your own mental landscape. Cool.
And he reminds Julian about that opposite thinking technique, challenging negative thoughts, replacing them with something positive.
Makes even more sense now. You're literally pulling out the weeds and planting flowers.
Eh.
What else does this gardener teach Julian?
Okay, this is interesting. He tells Julian about the secret of the lake. It's all about visualizing what you want and making it happen.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Spill the tea.
The gardener says that your subconscious mind can't tell the difference between real and imagined. So if you visualize your goals clearly, like they're already happening, it's like you're programming your brain for success.
So it's not just wishing, it's an actual technique.
Exactly. And it's got to be intentional. Visualize every day, same time, same place, make it a routine.
Sounds like a powerful tool. So as Julian learns this stuff, what's changing inside him?
He starts to realize that real happiness isn't about stuff or achievements, It's about finding peace within, living your purpose, and making a difference.
It's like shifting from I don't have enough to I have everything I need. Finding contentment on the inside.
You got it. And that leads him to the sixth virtue, those yellow roses, remember? The gift of giving.
This is where it all comes together, right? First 5 virtues set the stage, and then giving back becomes a natural next step.
Yep. The sages are all about that. They say real wealth isn't measured in dollars, it's the good you put out into the world.
It's like we're all connected, and we each have something to offer.
Right on. And giving doesn't have to be some big, grand gesture. It's also about those little everyday kindnesses,
So it's a way of life, not just writing a check. I like that.
And as Julian gets into this giving mindset, he finds more joy and fulfillment than he ever did chasing success.
It's like he's found his purpose, and now he gets to use it to make a real difference.
That's amazing. But wait, we're still missing one piece of the puzzle. What about that last virtue, embracing the now?
Remember that diamond path in the fable? That's it, right there. Every moment is precious like a diamond.
Yeah, diamonds are rare, valuable. Makes sense. What does Julian do with this?
The Savannah sages, they teach him about mindfulness. Paying attention to the present, appreciating each experience as it comes.
So no dwelling on the past or freaking out about the future, just being.
Being here now. And gratitude, they're big on that too. Focusing on what you're thankful for.
We've talked about gratitude before, but now it's like the cherry on top. It ties everything together. When you're present and grateful, that's where the real magic happens.
You nailed it. But there's one more thing they teach him, and it's kind of a biggie.
Okay, I'm ready. What is it?
The deathbed mentality.
Wait, didn't we recover that? We touched on it, but now they really dive deep with Julian. It's like they say, okay, for real, picture yourself on your deathbed, looking back on your whole life.
Okay, yeah, I see the difference. It's more than a thought experiment. It's intense.
Exactly. They ask him to think about his regrets, like, what do I wish I'd done differently? What should I have appreciated more?
Wow, that's heavy. But I get it. Thinking about your own mortality makes you want to make the most of every moment.
For sure. It's about living with intention, making sure your actions line up with your values. So Julian's journey, it's pretty amazing. He goes from feeling lost to finding himself, embracing these virtues, and totally transforming his life. But then what?
Yeah, what happens after that? Does he just ride off into the sunset?
Nah, he doesn't keep it to himself. He starts sharing this wisdom, helps others find their own way.
That's so cool, paying it forward, right?
Exactly. And that's something we can all do. The more we grow, the more we can help others grow too.
That's a great takeaway. So Julian's story, it's about personal transformation, but it's also about something bigger, right? Like making the world a better place.
Totally. It's about realizing we're all in this together. We all have something to offer. And when we focus on helping each other, everyone wins.
This has been so insightful. I'm already thinking about how I can use these virtues in my own life. And I know our listeners are probably feeling the same way.
I hope so. In the next part, we're going to get really practical and talk about some specific ways you can apply these virtues, create your own path, and make your life, well, more awesome.
Okay, we're back. And I gotta say, This whole thing has really got me thinking. It's amazing how this ancient wisdom, it just like clicks, even today.
Yeah.
It's got so much good advice for navigating life, even in the modern world.
It's true. And the way these virtues all connect, it's like they build on each other to make a blueprint for a really great life.
Totally. Like you can't just jump to the giving back part if you haven't figured out your own mind and purpose, right?
Exactly. It's a process and it's constantly evolving.
Okay, so speaking of process, let's talk about how people listening can actually start using these virtues. Where would you suggest they begin?
Well, the first thing is to just check in with yourself. Which virtue really speaks to you right now? What feels kind of off balance in your life?
So figure out where you're stuck and then use these virtues as like tools to get unstuck.
Exactly. Let's say you're always stressed and overwhelmed. Maybe mastering your mind or getting better at managing your time would be a good place to start.
And if you don't know what you're doing with your life, purpose is probably calling.
Right. The cool thing is, you can kind of pick and choose what works best for you.
No cookie cutter solutions, everyone's different.
Exactly. But whatever you choose, just remember, you got to stick with it. It takes time to build a new habit.
Don't expect overnight miracles. Just keep practicing, experimenting, and trust the process.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. Find a community, a mentor, someone who gets it.
Yeah, it's always easier when you've got people to support you.
Totally. And remember, this whole personal growth thing, it's not a destination, it's a journey. So enjoy the ride.
This deep dive has been incredible. I'm definitely feeling inspired to take action and make some changes, and I bet our listeners are feeling the same way.
I hope so. The power to live a better life, it's already inside you. By using these virtues, you can do amazing things, not just for yourself, but for the world around you.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shining your light.